That's what I found like so surprising, because I was so excited when I got Sims 4, even though I knew toddlers gone. I thought that they would be bringing them later. When they said that it was a time thing, I just assumed that they would bring them later on because of such the backlash. And I now feel a bit stupid because I don't know whether that's going to happen. But anyway, when I got into the game, it was like having hope flash. I was like, I got in the game and I started playing, and I was like, this doesn't feel like The Sims. What's going on? Why am I being told how this sim feels in big letters? And why is everything, when they go to work all day, why do they have to come home and do another 2 hours grind before they can do anything? And I tried to have a family, and it was like the family didn't interact together because there was too much extra work. The kids had to go to school, and then they had to do extra work at home, and they had to get their skills up. And I was getting annoyed when I was getting stressed when I was playing, instead of enjoying the game, which I have always, where I've just gone in the game and played and done my own thing. It just feels like you're always being told what to do. And that's a problem for me in The Sims, because The Sims has always been the freedom to do as you will.
Yes, you rule your world, as they like to say. And for me, my review of the game was generated towards, it felt like the mobile game Free Play mixed with a console. Yeah. And I understand why they chose this route. I don't think this was the right route. And I'm going to say, for me, from a personal aspect, when I played the game, it just felt the controls of the game were wonky. The UI was very detrimental to my health. I suffered a lot when I played the game. I was having frequent migraines, which meant I have a gaming rig, and so no matter how I tried to adjust it, the UI was causing me severe headaches, and because I had to strain, and I had to strain a lot, and because I already have to have my monitor dim for brightness, so I couldn't dim it anymore. Otherwise, I would not see my Sims because the contrast inside the game was bad, and I had to strain to just see to see the game itself. To play, I had to strain, and then on top of that, I had to strain to see the tiny little white UI that had white icons on it, and I'm trying to find what buttons to push in the first place, and I'm not having a problem with the people who designed this, but I am saying that this was designed for a mobile app, and that might be cool for some of the young people who are used to gaming on mobile, but for someone who's been PC gaming and gaming with mouse and keyboard, I just could not, the flow of the UI wasn't even the proper tense. I am in 4 different directions of my screen and trying to watch, and it was just, afterwards, I just had to shut it down. I couldn't even finish the full 2-day trial without my head feeling like it was about to explode, and it bled into the next day. That's how bad it was. And I tried to bring that up to the game developers, and I don't want them to take it as an insult. It really was very detrimental for my health to deal with the game. And then you can't enjoy a game if you have to strain to see it. It was just, and then don't get me wrong about the loading screen. So going from a very dark contrast game to a bright white loading screen was causing me what was called strobe lighting effect. And for people who suffer from migraines like I do,
that's a prime trigger.
It triggered it nonstop. So it was like dark, can't see my Sim, trying to play this game, straining to see, and then bright light. Oh my God, my eyes.
It's like, so it was they say that they want to make it more accessible to new users, and that's fine. And I love that new people come to The Sims. And actually, talking to a lot of people that are Simmers, they've brought family and friends. Like Betty, you said that your relative brought you to The Sims. Yeah. I've got younger cousins that I play The Sims with. She sits on the laptop and I sit on the computer and we play together, but separate games. Yeah. But they took away everything that was known about The Sims, so it was almost like that it was a baptism of fire to people who had followed the series for such a long time. Yeah. They completely changed it so that it became hard work for us to find how to play the game. Well, that seems to defeat the objective. You're trying to make it easier. for some people, but then you're making it much harder for someone else.
Yes, and then just when you get to the feel of the game, here's where we break it down to where the achievements really became, it doesn't fit The Sims. Because yes, Sims has always had sort of an achievement level background for the career things, but the achievements are in everything, and that's where if I do this task, I get an achievement. If I do it this much, I get an achievement. If I have this emotion this many times and I do what they tell me to keep this emotion, I get an achievement. And that's not a simulation game. That has bled into an RPG mobile game.
I agree.
And that's the problem. And that's where the linear thing comes from, because, like you said, you found yourself not being able to immerse into the sandbox simulation part of the game, but you're trying to do all these achievements to keep up and win the game. And that's not what Sims is about.
Exactly.
Sims does not have a win factor, and it should never have a win factor. It is a game you play forever. You can kill your sim off and lose. You can fail.
Yeah.
But you should be able to continue and continue and continue, and then play in every area, whatever you want to do, how you want to play. And those limitations that they want to introduce to people to learn how to play Sims, to learn how to control the Sims, to get through and do other things, put a huge damper on everyone else who knew how to play this game.
See, I don't mind if they offer it as an additional option. That would be wonderful. I'm all for options. People play The Sims differently. That I love that. I think it's really, I find it enjoyable that I can play The Sims for years. And then I'll come on and I'll read about how some of you play, and we're completely different, even though we're in the same play style. And I really love that. And that's where the TS4 is a bit of a departure, because instead of having options, it's quite narrow in its scope, and that's a problem. But the other thing that worries me about this game is that is having it seems like they're trying too hard to follow one demographic. And something as a family player that I had a real problem with is the awards for having Sims that sleep with lots of different Sims, because I found that made me really uncomfortable because of how many teenagers play it, and not just older teenagers. I'm talking about like 13-year-olds, and we know that younger kids play it too.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit worried about the sort of message that sends to children. And The Sims is something that's played in countries all around the world, and I'm not sure that that's if people, well, parents in particular, knew that that's one of the things within the goal system. I think a lot of parents would have reservations about the suitability of TS4.
Well, my reservations about that, because I am a parent. I'm a parent of 4. So it's a large crew for me. My reservations about the game, because I do let my 13-year-old play Sims 2 and Sims 3. And that's fairly young, but you have people even as young as 12 to 10 playing the game as well. And even though the game does say it's a T for teen in America, and I think it's PGI 12 in Europe, I have reservations. I'm not comfortable with rewards that don't sort of represent us all as a player. And what I mean by that is Sims 4 adapted some sort of frat boy environment. And I'm not comfortable with that, because it says to me personally, that I'm a female gamer. We're all female gamers in a sense. But you don't exist. We're not going to care to you. We don't care that you play the game. You're not going to exist here. Well, not only am I a female gamer, I'm a mom who also has little gamers, and I'm not even being catered to as far as my little gamers.
The thing that really worried me was the Woohoo weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I'm sorry, but that goes far too far for a teenage game. They could have made it just romantic interactions. There was no need to make it just about the act. And when people were arguing, well, you can do romantic things, and then it doesn't matter. But it does matter, because what you're basically telling teenagers is the only thing that was counted was the act. and it doesn't matter how many other romantic interactions, but that's what it was focused on, and you can't get away from that just because just because you choose to take it and do extra stuff as well. Basically, you're pushing the children and teenagers down a path that I'm quite uncomfortable with.
Well, and it's not their place to go there in the first place. That's my job as a parent. I'm not comfortable with EA challenging my child to think to go a place in their game that I don't want them to go. And then what that does to EA is block me from buying the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to do contests and challenges like that, and I'm not comfortable with my kid saying, basically, my kid wants my sim to sleep with a whole bunch of people just to get game contests, it is not proper. And what happens is then parents get outraged, and it is known to be causing these kind of controversies to get attention. They've always done this. It's very embarrassing because it brings a bad name to gamers and the company and game development in the first place. And I hate that they do these kind of marketing gimmicks because like you said, they could have done just something romantic, like, hey, post a romantic screenshot with your sim, and if we get this many screenshots, we'll put this in a game. How simple a competition, and everybody can feel comfortable in getting involved. Yeah. Whereas now, you have some parents like, no. So it's like, why challenge? Why
it's too
do
specific.
They think that?
Really,
right, it's really too specific, and it's really just. I mean, they took out the woohoo skill for that reason because parents.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's completely at odds. It's completely at odds with that. I couldn't understand why we had them taking that out, but then a couple of months on that they've got this as a challenge. It didn't make sense to me at all.
It didn't make sense either, and it was just here. It's bad PR is what's happening, and it's something that EA has just not been able to shake out of. They have their marketing their marketing for their games have always been just so. Could you stop? Could you just stop?
Like the video, is it Let's Rule video? I watched it and I thought you can do pretty much nothing of that in the game, and it seemed so sort of mean. Like everything they were doing was like pointing and laughing at other people, and I thought even when I was a teenager, I was never like that. I think that really like I think a lot of simmers. They're nice people, and I don't think that there's a lot of that sort of mentality around where they just want to do that sort of mean-spirited things.
Yeah. Well, not only that, we don't even want to see it. Like most of us aren't that type of gamer. Like I said, you can tell it's this frat boy mentality. I mean, look at like the whole how they advertised Sims 4 at first. It was like, oh, you can be a bro.
Yeah, bro.
Just excuse me for a moment, please.
Okay. It's like, if you want to be a bro, I don't want to be a bro. What do you mean? And then they had when they had it, they had two of the developers playing out the game, and they were doing frat boy stuff. Like they were sitting there. They scared someone. Was making cupcakes or whatever. They were making fun of a dictator or whatever, and then the dictator pees on the floor, so they start to laugh hard, and then both of them fall down in the pee. Like that's frat boy goofy.
Yeah, I have to say that was the only one I watched. I couldn't watch any more videos because I was like, this is putting me off the game, not making me.
It's because it's gross. Like that's so disgusting. I don't want to see. And like for like I said, EA's audience for The Sim is 60% women. We are not going to find toilet humor as appealing.
Well, I don't mind
marketing this too.
I don't mind having a bit of toilet humor. It's just The Sims has always had lots of different kinds of humor. It's not just been all one kind, and that's what I've appreciated about The Sims, because generally The Sims as a title has been quite universal. So anyone can pick it up and find it entertaining in their own way. Like For
Right.
me, I've never made my Sims have like insane traits or anything like that because that's not my taste. But I know that other people really love it, and I enjoy that other people love it, and that's what I want to see in the Sims. I want to see there be real all of us having fun together, doing different things, and enjoying each other's journey in the Sims.
Right. But I don't mind that. But when it starts to get too where it's too overboard, frat boy, because then now you have like an example is the angry poop and
Yeah.
peeing like a champion. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about how empty this is. It's just if you're peeing like a champion in The Sims, it's the same as if you were regular peeing. So
Yeah.
there's not
nothing
even
to
like
it.
you don't get a crown on your head or anything like that. I mean, if you're taking an angry poop, your Sim's face isn't angry and turning red, and he's like, there's nothing different. It's the
No.
same thing,
Yeah.
and so if there's like, why, why?
No.
I mean, you're not even going to even elaborate and put extra animations and simulation to the stuff that you got in the game.
It's basically
Why
telling
even
us.
put it?
It's basically telling us to read the game like a book. That's what I think is a bit of a problem with TS4. That quite a lot of it is visual. Like you have to read what's going on. You know,
Well, I
you
hate
and
that.
the rest of it. There's no difference in the way they behave when they do that. So
Right.
essentially, what you're doing is you're reading what the sim is doing, and
it's so boring. It's so
yeah,
boring.
that's not fun.
I want to sound like mean because I guess that does sound a bit mean.
Yeah, I've actually stopped from actually starting families in Sims 4 because to me there is no point. There is no what I would term logical, realistic progression. I watched a video of the baby turning into the child, and I thought, no, this really won't do. So that side of it's all gone for me. But I do spend time still building, and that's when I get really, really frustrated. And even with that, I can't be in there for more than maybe half an hour, 3/4 of an hour at a time. And I don't go every day because it just isn't that pleasurable.
Well,
whereas, with previous versions of the game, I could never get enough of it.
Well, this is it. Like, I found that in the end, I had to stop playing Sims 4 because it was just making me upset, and I was ending up coming off the game more stressed than I was when I went in. And I'd be yelling at the server, "Why isn't that there?" or what, and that's just not fun. I don't, and I went back and I thought I had a little time off before I went back to any of the previous games, and initially I went back to Sims 2 because I thought maybe if I go back to Sims 3. I was a bit worried that it had put me off The Sims as a series, that it was something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. But I went back to TS2 and I was addicted again, and I can't get off it. And I'll be playing, and then someone will come in the room and say, "You've been on that for ages." And I'll look at the time and I think, "Oh my God, what have I been doing?" Yeah. And that's how much The Sims is to me. It's totally immersive. I don't notice what I'm doing. I'm having so much fun in the game that there could be anything going on around me and I won't notice. That's what I want from The Sims. I don't want something. I think where maybe a lot of people fall down is because we've got this weird label where we're not proper gamers and that The Sims is a casual game. There's this sort of perception that we don't take it seriously. But actually, when you talk to Simmers, they take The Sims really seriously. Like with me, I will upgrade my computer around the time when there'll be a new Sims game. So I know when it will be around, and I want to be able to play it to the best of its ability. And I make time for The Sims. Like I'll take time out of my life because it's that enjoyable. And sadly, with The Sims 4, it's just not there. It just leaves me cold and makes me angry, and I don't want that. I want entertainment, and I want to be able to escape from life and do fun things in a game. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Well, for me, it's like you can't really call Sims a casual game in a sense. Like, yes, you can play it casually, but the community itself is not a casual gaming community. I mean, it doesn't even spark me as one. You have moderate, you have its own fan sites. Yeah, that's true, but you have modders who are dedicated to only fixing the game, but they're making all kind of contents for the game. And you have CC makers, you have simmers who are just story creators, making anything that mostly you see happening in MMO environments and RPG environments where there's a mass community is happening with Sims.
Yeah.
And people are not putting casual hours into Sims either. You're like, not too long ago, a poster said someone had 1,000 hours into Sims 4. 1,000 hours within the first within the first like month of playing it, which means they were playing the game nonstop. And then you have a lot of people like that.
Christine Bremner on the thread, she shared a world the other day, and she said it. I think she said it took her 6 months to complete it and test it. That's a long time to be putting into something like this. So essentially, what she's doing, she's not just playing the game, but she's creating, and then not only is she doing that for herself, but she's sharing it with the community, and that's where I think they've lost touch, is that there's a lot of creatives on The Sims, and a lot of creatives in The Sims are creatives in their outside lives. I'm quite creative too.
And it's just not a casual game. It's just not casually.
I used to play the interior decorator job in The Sims in 3. And I used to spend hours choosing the right textures. I'd go in, I'd make it all look perfect. I'm a perfectionist, and I really would work really hard at what I was doing. I'm not a builder at all. I've dabbled a bit since, because I did the visual history thread with a few other simmers. But I liked having the option, if I wanted to learn how to build or how to decorate in a way, you could go onto YouTube, you could learn there. There's Carl Sims website. There's always someone that's there to help you start in a new way of looking at Sims, and that's what I really enjoy. That you might like a way of playing, but it's pretty much infinite where you could take it. You could tomorrow start and you could say, oh, I want to become really good at building. So, and lots of simmers, we're not one-dimensional like us here. We're not just family players. There will be other things that we do in the game that aren't related to family play, but that enhance the family play aspect that we love so much. And that's what I want to see from The Sims in the future, is that I want them to see the big picture, not just look at a couple of people that share on YouTube or the focus groups. They need to look at everyone, and they need to look at the community and the vibrancy of the community. Even now, if you go on, even with the TS4, with people not being happy, there's still plenty of people sharing lots of creative things, and it's wonderful. That should be embraced, because actually I think it makes them a lot more money, because people are going to want to, especially with there were all those bugs in TS3. Those modders that fixed the game for EA essentially brought them more money, because people would have given up playing, but because their games were fixed, or fixed to a point they could play, they still invested. Where before, I think if they hadn't had those options to fix things, they would have given up. So actually, EA is benefiting from the community.
It is very much benefiting from the community, and to make a game that honestly I felt has stripped the community of its resources in play. Yeah. It was just shocking. Like, the game just doesn't cater to any of the different types of players, and it definitely, to me, it says that I do not understand the initial players of this game. And it might have been understanding this, like, EA has always been a company that has projected, has this program where they get new developers. And I understand that there's a lot of old developers that are still from Sims 2, but the truth is they do have a lot of turnover in Maxis. And you have a lot of layoffs, and then you have a lot of rehires, and situations like that, you get college fresh devs. And this game screams to me, we have a lot of devs that don't generally understand simulation games, let alone the audience that plays The Sims. And I think we're viewed as a casual gamer like the same gamer that plays Bejeweled, and we're just not that gamer. So where they should be looking at us as the same gamers who play Skyrim.
Yeah, well, I was, I was interested. I think it was Sim Fury. Lindsay was talking about how she made like a Sims Bible as she was working on the team with a couple of others, and I think that's really important. And I did ask whether they looked at it, but I didn't get an answer. But that's what I think they need. I think they need to have access to. And surveys are very good, but you don't know who your sample is, and I don't know how wide their sample was. I know that a lot of people, when TS4 came out, a lot of people were offered the survey, and then as soon as they said they were older simmers, it shut them down. And that might be because they had just a certain amount of people they wanted from that age range. But I think that there's so many different sort of positions within simmers that it's quite hard to capture what we are as a community and what we enjoy. And I think there needs to be more of a interaction between them and us, instead of having it them and us where there's a big gulf, which there seems to be at the moment with the amount of silence. I mean, they have been doing better since we've said to them about the social media thing and coming onto forums, and I give them a lot of credit for, coming on and talking to people. But I think that if they had a close relationship with their customers, they would understand us a lot more. That's the way forward. Instead of being remote, I think they need to be more involved, because I understand that they're busy with the game, but there needs to be time set aside so they can get a handle on what we want. Because otherwise, how do they know? They can't. They don't mind read. They need to know what we need as a community. And quite often on the forums, you'll see someone will say something, and other people will come along, and there's common threads. So they'll be able to work out what the most important things are to the community, just from interacting with us a bit more.
And I think I don't like the whole survey aspect, because I actually do not take them. And I do think a lot of simmers don't take them. I don't like that they monitor our gaming habits, because they don't. I opt out of that too. And it is, if you really want to get an accurate example of who your gamers are, get off your chair and go talk to them.
I think
because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna sit there and take your survey. I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm gaming, and then when I'm not gaming, I'm busy, and then and it annoys me. And and then also, what you ask for in that survey might not actually represent what I want in the first place. Because if you're gonna ask me choose between 5 things what you would want the most, and then I have to choose through 5 things I actually hate that I like the most, you're not representing me as a player. You need to get down and talk to me.
I think a lot of people turned off game data, and I know I do always, because I don't like not knowing exactly what they're taking with the game data. Because when you use privacy policy, it's a little bit open to taking all sorts of extra looks at what you're looking at and the rest of it. And as much as I don't have anything to hide, I don't like big corporations intruding on my personal space, and The Sims is my escape. I don't want to feel that they're spying on how I play. If I want it to be on my terms as a customer, I don't want to feel like I'm their minion. I want to feel like if I come to them and say to them, this is what I want, that's a better way of approaching it, because you don't irritate people that way. If you are just relying on people having game data, especially with Sims 3, there were a lot of bugs where they would just tell you to turn it off. So essentially that skews the data already. And then you've got it. Your data is only as good as the people that are reading it. It needs a lot of research as to why the data says what it does. And I'm not sure whether that is being done when they look at these issues, because one of these threads said that they took toddlers out. We don't know. It was just someone said it because they weren't played very much. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. Toddlers were one of the shortest lifespans anyway. But a lot of people have said that because they took out so much from TS3, and it started at TS3, not just at TS4, but they took out so much from TS3 and then sold it through the store, which I think was quite naughty. A lot of people had a bad experience of toddlers because, like, the changing table wasn't there that we had in TS2, and other things that made having toddlers in the game more bearable and more fun. It became, if you wanted to play them, you had to make the effort to buy the extras, and I think that put a lot of people off the gameplay of them, and that wasn't fair because they're actually quite a rewarding age group, and a lot of people say that they much preferred TS2 toddlers because they were much more rounded in the game, and TS3, because it started with such bare bones toddlers, you know, it sort of started them off on a bad start, and I'm not sure what that probably went through the whole of TS3 because, like you said, Anna, the base has to be the start, you know. So
yes, and that's where you have to understand that maybe 4 is not going to be the way we want it to be because the start is very bare bones, and even if they were to add back, here's the example of that. Like the store content and even some of the stuff that came through generations, you can only get so much. Toddlers were still stripped of a lot of interactions in Sims 3. And what expansion store content just cannot do is make a base game simulation more fulfilled. It has to start at the base to feel complete. And that's why Sims 2 is so good, is because the base game is an essential complete. It is a complete overall round concept with simulation, and it perfectly went with Sims 1. Yes, you did subtract some things, but the simulation play itself advanced. I mean, we went from having 3 life stages to, what, 5 life stages or 6 life stages?
I think, they added them later on, didn't they, with the young adults. Yeah.
Right. And then we went from babies to who went from toddlers to children, and then in between there, because we didn't have teens in Sims 1. So then we went from child to teen to adult, and then once we got university, it was child, teen, young adults, and then adults, and then elderly. And all these life stages had something of criteria to flesh them out, and it was just the perfect example of how a series is supposed to advance.
I think that's why
the simulation play.
I think that's why I'm surprised that they're surprised that so many people are family players, because Sims 2 is known as one of the most successful games, and one of the main selling points of Sims 2 was the family play aspect. A lot of us picked up, you know, a lot of people picked up at Sims 2, and so that's where they set their standards. And so perhaps maybe for people that started in TS3, they didn't miss it because they didn't have it. But for those of us that played from TS2 onwards, you know, I played families in TS1, I did, but they weren't fun. They weren't as fun. As soon as you got to TS2, oh my God, it was like a whole new, amazing thing. And that I've ever since I've played families. And I'm surprised that they seem to look at TS2 and see how successful it was, and they've moved some aspects from that into TS4. But then one of the main aspects that made it successful, which was the family play, they seem to have completely missed the, you know, and I don't understand how they've done that when the advertising was set up to be family play. I mean, that video is the best Sims video, in my opinion. The one where they've got the bloke who meets his wife and then they have a family. That's amazing. That's such a brilliant, you know, even though some of it's, you know, not accurate. We all used to the Sims.
I know what video you're talking about.
You know, but it has a lot of humour. It's not a dry subject. Family is actually quite fun. There's so much to family. It's about different relationships, all the dynamic between everyone. You might hate someone one day and then love them the next day. There's so much drama within family. It's not just, I don't know why people think it's just some soccer mums or whatever. I don't see it like that at all. On our thread, we've seen people, we've seen men that are really great family players. We've seen people from all backgrounds, all beliefs. And it's just...
You even have the teenage boys that want it too. Like, it's so funny that I'll say this because, like I said, I have a 13-year-old who plays. We actually have one in our thread. Is Bobbio is a young one.
Yeah.
And is a guy. So,
yeah.
And he's a teenage player, wants to play. I mean, you see him asking for toddlers back.
Yeah.
And you go, they really have a very strong misconception of their audience. And it's like...
Yeah.
It's like, just because you see a young male does not mean he's not family oriented. He may very well be. And then the whole frat boy thing is just very, I feel frat boy thing is very racial and very stereotypical thing about young adult males, which I think should not be happening. And I mean, they don't think this way. Not all college-bound children or teenagers think like this. They are not always up to mischief and things like that. And it's just, it does them an injustice to paint them like that. And then you're trying to target them in your game, and you're just grossly misrepresenting them.
Yeah.
And so when you have, like, my kid who just doesn't want to play Sims 4. He doesn't like Sims 3 because he says it's lacking. He wants to play Sims 2, and I asked him why. He's like, well, when I make my family can do more things, and he plays as a family player, and it's hilarious, but it's true.
I honestly believe that because my nephew, he's a young adult now, and he's into Assassin's Creed and all the rest of it, and he certainly didn't want Sims 4 for Christmas when I offered it, but when we had TS2, he used to come and stay with us fairly regularly, and he loved his family play. And I mean, at that time, he would have been early to mid-teens. And I can quite easily believe it. Teenagers on the whole are a lot more conventional than people give them credit for.
Yeah,
and I think that is reflected in their gameplay a lot more than they would want to admit to any adult because it's not cool.
Yeah.
But really, they like the security because in reality, they're living with that security.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where they've gone wrong. And I think that's why when they say that the EA are possibly targeting the mobile market, they're making a bit of a mistake. Because they might find that they've got teenagers out there online who really aren't interested in Sims that sleep around, that really would rather have proper family play and would probably like to see, all the proper life stages in there.
Well, I always say that actually I think quite a lot of adults underestimate teenagers. Teenagers are very astute and bright, and they know what they want. And it's a time in life that's quite scary for them because they don't know what's coming in the future. And I think The Sims offers somewhere safe to go and play as you will. And when I was younger, yes, I went out partying, but I always wanted the family behind me. Family is something that for most people, even rock stars in real life, they're successful and that's wonderful, but in the end they all go off into making families. Even if they don't have children, they have families where they've got another half, where they've got companionship. And I think everyone in life wants to have a companion, and that's really important. And I think that's what they're missing in The Sims 4, is that it's a basic human need to feel part of something, and a family is a really for most of us, it's what we aspire to. We want to have a good family life, and it's a shame.
It is, because here's the other thing, because we had a player that came into the thread and was upset, and one of the things she was talking about is not all family play has to deal with children, and that's true. That's very true. first of all, establishing the family play is one thing. You have to get to that point. I mean, you just don't all of a sudden walk up to someone and say, okay, we're going to be family.
Yeah.
Family play. You have to actually ask that person out, hey, I like you, let's go out. And you start to find your family members first. And when you don't have connective play like that in a life simulator, where it says, okay, where's the stuff for me to actually look for my family? And then you have to create that gameplay because you're trying to represent life. And then you move on to where I'm establishing my family, and you may start off with just 2 people. Yeah. And that might be it to your family. You might have 2 people and a dog, and that's your family.
This, family is not just parents and children. A family can be any, there's all different kinds of sexualities, all sorts of belief systems. You might just have pets, you might adopt children. There's so many different kinds of families that I think that's where a lot of people miss the point when we go on the forums and we're talking about family play. I don't just mean I just want toddlers. No, I want to have the option to have lots of different families. I want to have, if I decided I want my Sims to get divorced, then you've got a joined family. There should be all options to make whatever family you want to have for your Sim, and that's what's missing in Sims 4.